Sorry.
Yeah, it's absolutely. We are live now. So,
Yeah.
good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, teachers, students. Good afternoon, all the IAS and UPSC aspirants that are watching this beautiful session today. My name is Atul Khosla, and I have with me Vivek Atray, my very dear friend, and Mr. Shubham Gupta, who's going to be the wonderful speaker of the day. As a quick introduction, Vivek and I started a series where we promised that we're going to bring exceptional UPSC and IAS people in front of you. Officers who've done extremely well in the UPSC exam and or who've had exceptional careers in the IAS. What could be better than having Mr. Shubham Gupta with us today? He is All India rank number 6. You still don't have a very thick glasses, Shubham, for All India rank 6, but we'll talk about that later. Vivek, as all of you know, is an ex-IAS officer. He's also the mentor to the Vivek Career Academy. So thank you, Vivek Career Academy, for making this happen. And of course, all the students from Shoolini. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA from General Bajaj, and then spent 20 years in the industry. Unfortunately for me, I did not do the IAS. So Vivek, that's one grudge I still have. But for a deeper discussion and for a deeper introduction to Shubham, I'll hand it over to Vivek, and we'll then get into a wonderful interaction with Shubham, understand how to crack the UPSC, but more importantly, how he keeps himself so composed. I can still see a very shining Shubham. Vivek, over to you.
Thank you very much, Atul. And in fact, it's a pleasure to be here for one more masterclass along with Shoolini University. And it is wonderful that we have a mix of old and new, if I can say, IAS officers. Although those who I call old are not really old, they are basically older in the system. And we had two very senior people to start off. It was Mr. KBS Sidhu, Mr. Vishnu Prakash, very, very senior people. And then, of course, we had Mrs. Charu Bali, who is an IPS officer of Haryana. And we had then younger people like Brinda Shukla, IPS officer of UP Cadre. We had Darpan Aluwalia, who has just made it to the IAS this year. And now we have Shubham Gupta, who is a 2019 batch IAS officer, 6th rank in All India. And Shubham, we are very proud of you that you are such a high scoring topper. So we'll be asking you about your journey very soon. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Vivek sir. Thank you so much, Atulji, for inviting me here. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Atul.
Yeah, Shubham, we'd love to hear more about you to start with. Tell us about your background. Tell us about where you studied and what made you take the IAS. We'll then get into the preparation of the IAS, but firstly, would love to hear more about you.
So I belong to Jaipur in Rajasthan, and my background, my family background has been purely business class. Nobody in my extended family even has opted for any kind of service, even private service for that matter. And
go ahead.
And after, I think, so my family being in the business, they eventually end up interacting with bureaucrats a lot, and that's how I got the inspiration to be one of them myself. So that is how I got into it. And after, so I moved a lot because of my parents, because business class, so we had to keep shifting places. So I did my schooling from various places, including I think 3 to 4 cities. And then I did my college from Delhi, Delhi College of Arts and Commerce. I did my bachelor's in economics. Then I enrolled myself in Delhi School of Economics for a master's program there. After that, meanwhile, I was writing. So in my second attempt, I got through Indian Audit and Account Service, and I trained there for that in Shimla. I completed my training there, and then I was writing again meanwhile, and I qualified for this in my 4th attempt, and then I trained in Shimla. And now I'm posted in Nashik as assistant collector. So that has been pretty much my journey in terms of academics. And how I got the inspiration, like I told you, so my family used to interact a lot with bureaucrats. So my father once, when I was a very young child, he came up to me and just told me that, okay, tujhe collector banna hai, because that's all he knew. what bureaucrats do in the colloquial sense of the term. So, and I was very young. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So I had no idea about what a collector is, how to become one, and all that. So it was a passing comment of sorts in his mind and mine too. But when later after 10th standard, when I got decent marks, my school was really forcing me to opt for science in my 11th and 12th. But I somehow was not interested in science and was more interested in commerce. Those were the only two streams offered in my school. So that is when my brother really sat me down and asked me, "Tujhe karna kya hai?" And then I asked him. Then I thought about it, and I think probably from that young age, it already somehow always stuck to me. That this is what I want to do, probably in life, and this is another way of achieving what I really want to achieve, to serve the people, to probably see the impact of the work that I've been doing in the larger masses. So that is what I really was probably looking for, and so I decided कि मैं commerce लूँगा, and then I will go up for economics and all that. So that is how the journey started.
So is your father now very happy with you?
now
that you're a collector?
Now, fortunately, he's waiting for 4 or 5 years that I can actually sit on that chair.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Shubham. What an inspiring journey. Now tell us, how did you prepare? 4 years, that's a long time, right? I mean, where did you get the energy from? And tell us a bit about how did you prepare for the civil services?
So, I opted for a coaching when I was in Delhi. That is a very small coaching, but I was coaching along with my college. So I started in latter part of my third year of college, and I used to go for coaching in the evening after college. So that is how I started. But the major part of my preparation was always to not put all my eggs in one basket. So I was never just dependent on UPSC, and that has been a major reason why I have been able to sustain myself for 4 years, for that matter. Because I never felt like, okay, I have been only doing UPSC for the last 4 years. Because once in my first 2 attempts, I was enrolled in Delhi School of Economics, which is itself a pretty tedious course in that sense. In the next 2 attempts, I was in Shimla training for audit and accounts. So either way, I was not feeling very shallow in that sense. कि मैं सिर्फ यही कर रहा हूँ और मुझे कुछ I don't have anything else to do. So that is how I've been able to do it. But So keeping myself busy and probably having little bit other interest than just doing UPSC has helped me cope with these 4 years.
Wow. So they say that you need to prepare 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day every day for UPSC. And you're out there also, studying at the Delhi School of Economics, which you rightly said is itself a very intense program. How did you do it? I mean, you were working 18 hours a day, Shubham, or 8 hours is not needed? You were doing 4 or 5 hours of civil services preparation, but very intense.
So, Atulji, the number of hours is not important, and that's what I keep telling people also, because what I used to focus on was syllabus, and I had a very, I had a very single-headed formula which I had created for myself, which was I used to look at the syllabus for a month, and then I used to bring it down to 15 days, and then I used to bring it down to 7 days, and then I used to bring it down to daily. And that's how I used to focus on completing my syllabus. The number of hours never really mattered for me. The only thing that formula did for me was, if I'm not able to complete my target for a particular day, I would generally have that flexibility to complete the weekly target at least. So I could work harder on the weekends and push myself a little bit and still feel happy about myself that I have done what I had aspired for in the beginning of the week. So that formula really worked for me, and that is why the number of hours never really mattered, because some days were hectic, some days were not. I could not really predict whether if I plan to complete this much in a particular day, if I plan to study these many hours in a day, I will really be able to do it. That was not the case with me. This formula worked better, and I think this formula works better for everybody, because the number of hours really vary between aspirants. So it can go from 5 hours to 15 hours, depending on how much you are able to do in how much of time.
Wow, that's so inspirational, Shubham. I'm going to hand it over to Vivek now. I know, Vivek, you've got a bunch of questions that we'll like to ask Shubham.
Yes.
Vivek, over to you.
Shubham, I want to ask you, for the knowledge of those who are watching, the 3 components of the exam, the prelims, the mains, and the interview, and you appeared for them so recently. So how did you approach the 3 of them separately? What is the strategy for the prelims? What's the strategy for the mains? And what's the strategy for the interview?
So at the outset, let me just tell the viewers that I really did not approach all the three segments of the exam separately. I attempted them at the same time. So,
Can you hear me, Shubham?
Sir?
Yeah, we can, Vivek, we can hear, we heard your question. Go ahead,
Can you hear
Shubham.
me?
Yes, I could. Yeah. So I was just saying that I never approached all the three different segments of this exam separately. I always thought of preparing all three segments together because that is how the approach of the exam should be. Because the only thing that varies from one segment to another is the way the question is asked and not the questions themselves. So, for example, in prelims, it will be a little bit more factual oriented. In mains, it will be more analytical.
Carry on, Shubham. Carry on.
Yes, sir. And the interview, it will be more of testing your personal qualities rather than the knowledge that you have. So all three need to be prepared together because the topics are pretty much the same. The only thing is you have to know what all information you need for which stage of the exam, so that when that particular stage is near, so you are able to extract that kind of information only and focus much better on what you really need for that particular stage. And that is all. That is what I also did, sir. So all my notes will have combined information regarding prelims also, mains also, and interview also. But when when the prelims are near, about 1 month back, I will only study whatever I had jotted down for prelims only. And that is how the strategy used to work for me. This also helped because once you start preparing for something wholesomely, it tends to formulate itself in the form of a story in your head. And that story helps you to remember the facts also better because you can generally put pieces together in the whole painting of sorts. So and that is how I used to look at it, because I had a really hard time remembering facts, and that is why I think prelims is the most difficult stage in this exam according to me. And this was a better way of doing things. It might look like in the beginning that it takes a bit more time to prepare because generally you have to go back and research and make your own notes, detailed notes for that matter. But overall, it will be a useful exercise in the end, I think.
So, Shubham, that's amazing. So, what you're saying is be focused, and you're saying learn as a story. So, these are the two things I heard from you. But what subjects did you take, and how did you choose the subjects, Shubham? Also, Rohit is asking suggestion on books that students must read. You know, we keep on hearing you have to read The Hindu and a bunch of other magazines. Is that what you also did, or you did something different?
No, so let me answer the book question first. So for books, my strategy has been to be extremely organic with whatever I read. And by organic, I simply mean that my source of information was majorly NCRTs and then the newspaper. So I used to never skip, if I have to study a particular topic, I will never skip NCRTs and the newspaper. And beyond that, if I feel the need to follow any reference book, only then I would refer to one. Otherwise, so for most of the subjects, people keep asking me, what is your book list? Give me a book list. I don't have any book list because my book list is given on NCRT's website. And that is all my book list is, because I don't have a bunch of reference books which I generally used for preparing for this exam. And that has been my strategy. And I think that strategy will generally work, because what happens when you start referring to these many books which are available in the market, you lose track of what you really started to study, because there are so many different books, so much material is available. You have to put an end to whatever you are reading regarding particular topic. And because of these so many books, you generally are not able to understand where you should really stop. And reading too much is not really always the smart thing to do in this exam. You have to know where to start and where to stop, because revision, I think, is the key in this exam rather than studying too much and knowing it all.
Fantastic. Vivek?
Very good answer indeed. Yes, Atul, I'll ask him now. Shubham, you've been topper now and 6th rank, and earlier you were 600 and something rank. So life suddenly changed, when you became a topper. And what was it that you did in that last attempt that really clinched the issue for you after 3 years of struggle? I would say it was hard work and struggle.
the last year you had the icing on the cake? What was it?
So for me, so my main score was exactly the same. Only there was a difference of only 2 marks between the attempt on in 2007, 2016 and
Okay.
2018. The main difference that was there was I gained 60 plus more marks in my interview this time.
Wow.
So in fact, for the viewers, I had scored one of the lowest marks in the interview in 2016. I had scored only 124. And in this exam, I scored decently well. I scored 184. So whatever change happened majorly in my interview process and not in any other stages of the exam. And that has been, fortunately, the changing story of sorts in my journey from scoring 366 to be able to score 6th rank in this exam. And what changed really in my strategy was I basically put my heart and soul into studying for the interview. So in 2016, I had taken the interview very lightly. I had not done my research. I had not read properly. In 2018, the only thing I changed was I went through my detailed application form very minutely. I jotted down all the key points, terms of sorts, and I did a complete research on whatever could be asked from those that information which I had given to the examiner in that 4 to 5 page form that the UPSC asks you to fill. And once I was through that, the examiner may or may not ask me questions from whatever I had already prepared, but at least I would be more confident because I know that even if the examiner asks me, I will be able to answer it. And so I was able to answer the other questions better because of the confidence that I had in myself.
Wow, that's an amazing way to prepare. But that's also, you missed being a topper even in the previous year. Do you have a regret on that, Shubham?
Being very honest with you, sir, once I saw the rank and just the rank, I had not seen the division of marks between mains and interview. I was decently happy with myself. I had hope in myself that okay, ho gaya, and I will probably do better because I never even expected my name to be on the list, to be very honest. So once I saw the division of marks, then I was a little heartbroken because at least I would have been happy with scoring average marks, but 124 is really very, very low marks in the interview, and it's pretty much the interviewer telling you that okay, we don't want you there. But by God's grace or by whatever fortunate luck, I was able to be there because of my mains marks. So it's kind of a not so happy feeling, but fortunately I was able to tide over it and prepare again.
Absolutely wonderful. And Dr. Vivek Rana has written over here that you've also written a book. So I'm even more impressed with you. You are going out cracking the IAS 6th rank, which is no mean feat, and you're also writing a book, Shubham. Tell us about a book, what you've written, Shubham. Is it on economics? Is it a novel? What interests you when it comes to books?
So I generally like to read books a lot, sir, and majorly my interest is in non-fiction books. I am not much into fiction books for whatever reasons, but the book that I had written, it was a co-authored book by a few other people. And this was in the 3rd year of my college. And this was actually as part of a UGC-sponsored innovation conclave, which the UGC used to do in Delhi University every year. I was part of one of the groups, and the topic was extremely interesting. The topic was courtesan culture of India. And the book that we brought out was titled The Wife and the Traveling Bioscope. So it was really a compilation of whatever information we collected through our exhibitions, in which Bioscope was a part of it. And then we compiled and jotted down our articles, our observations, our papers of sorts, and the whatever feedback we got from the people, and brought it all down in the form of a book. And that's how we got the book out. It's really a fascinating area of work, and I really got interested once we got into it because not much healthy is being told to you once you think of Tawaif or courtesan culture in India.
I've got one more question, and then I'm going to ask Vivek to take it from there. And my question is about Missouri. I've heard amazing things about Missouri, that it's a life-changing experience. It's worth all the effort. Tell us more about that, Shubham.
So, sir, Missouri is a dream place for all of us. So, we already hold it so high. We have such high regards for the place in our heads, in our minds, in our hearts, for that matter, that we instantly tend to enjoy that place so much the moment we enter the premises, because it has been always our dream to be there, to have that I-card and to enter that place without, no, without anybody stopping us to from entering that place. So that really has been the kind of a place. But the most important thing that you really get from that place, and fortunately again it begins with the foundation course where all the services are together, is one, the spirit of esprit de corps, which really is important. And we start with the right values at the right place before we are all separated and put into different districts for doing our separate work. And and also we start with a battery of such amazing officers who have done tremendous work in the field, and then they are all teaching us, trying to at least impart knowledge to all of us. And the kind of speakers that have been there, the kind of speakers that they call there to interact with us, the kind of experience that is being shared, it really helps us to become more humble and more dedicated towards what we really wanted to achieve. Because it's possible that we kind of may lose track of why we wanted to be there, but they do a very good job of reminding us every now and then, okay, this is why you are here and this is what you're supposed to do.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Shubham Gupta, All India Rank 6 for UPSC 2019 with us. And we're having a lovely discussion about what it takes to crack the UPSC. And he just spoke about experiences in Missouri. So, you're a young IAS officer, Shubham, and I think it's been probably a few months since you started. Any anecdote, any interesting incident you want to share with our audience?
So there have been, there have been anecdotes here and there. But if I want to share something which happened to me before actually going to the academy. So this happened with me, and this really, this particular incident had a deep imprint on me, because it just gave me a reality check of sorts of what I'm looking ahead in my life. What really happened? So I was in Jaipur training for audit and account service. Meanwhile, I got invited to be the chief guest at a very small function organized by a very small NGO, and it was basically students performing their different talents on the stage. So I went there. The function started a bit late. I was late for a meeting, so I just started getting up. And so one parent came running to me and they asked me, "Sir, aap rukiye, please, because I've just asked my kids to be here so that they could perform in front of you." And I was a bit surprised. I said, "ठीक है, I will wait for it." I waited for it. I got to know that the two kids who performed yoga in front of me, they are actually Limca book holders. So they had no need to perform in front of me. Really, they were stars in themselves. So they performed, and then finally I got up to leave, and then the parent again came running towards me, and then he asked me one thing कि सर आपने देख लिया मेरे बच्चे बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्म करते हैं, आप मुझे बताइए सर आप उनके लिए क्या कर सकते हैं, कुछ तो कीजिए इनके लिए. And that is when really it struck me that I am not even there, I am not even sitting in the chair, but people have already started expecting so much from me. And these are kids who are already doing so well in life. I don't know what else can I do for them. But it is generally a good realization of sorts in my head ki, Acha, okay, I have been looked up to in a very specific sense now, and I need to live up to that so that I am able to at least do something about what people are hoping from me. So that was kind of a reality check which really pushed me in not being complacent after I had already achieved that rank, and be very serious about the job that was lying in front of me. And that has really been a very important insight in my life in the last year of family.
This is so interesting. So there is a question from Abhishek, which I'm going to ask, which is, does this put pressure on you? Is there performance pressure that you feel now? The exams are over and you can't get up every day and shout and say, hey, I'm now in the IAS, right? So now it's your daily life. So how do you see your next 30 years? What's your dream? And do you feel any pressure in terms of work?
So in terms of work, there is no pressure, but the pressure is from your own expectations of yourself. So for example, when we are in the district training, it depends where you are and how much work you will be given in the district administration. And for the first year, for the expectations that you have from before when you start writing the exam is much more than what you really get in the district training. Because
Vivek, have we lost Shubham?
No, I'm there. I'm there. I would like to mention that how was the first day of your service once you reached Nashik and when you sat down in your chair? Is Shubham there?
We've lost Shubham sir. So
We
he
lost
was
him.
trying to rejoin. So he'll be back, I suppose.
Okay, I'll just
So
mention that when Atul, after all this preparation of many years, when an IAS officer or IPS officer reaches his first posting, and whether it's a trainee posting or it's an actual posting, when he reaches there and sits down in the seat after years of struggle, and he reaches on the first day, he realizes that, is this what I had prepared for? And then that feeling is a mixed feeling. So Mussoorie is all glamour and of course it's a beautiful place, but you may be in the dusty plains of some town when you reach. So it is very different over there.
So Shubham sir is back, and Siddhartha ji is also there, but I'm not too sure he is connected to the devices.
Can you hear me, Kamalji?
I think he's probably joining in. So till then, we can continue and
Yes, sir, you were audible.
right. I'm sorry I dropped off.
My internet connection was a bit weak, I think. So apologies for that.
No, I think we're all learning to be part of the digital world, Shubham. So I didn't know whether I had dropped off or you had dropped off. So we're just trying to. So we have Mr. Siddharth with us. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
My name is Atul, and we're having a lovely discussion with Shubham. So you've been Shubham's mentor, and I'm not sure whether we still have you with us or not. But are you there, Kamal sir? I think we lost him.
I'm here, sir, but we have lost Siddharth sir, I suppose. So his frame
We've
is
lost.
Yeah.
Chalo, let's continue with our discussion. I think there are a lot of questions over here. So we have a question again from Abhishek, who's saying, is it important to read biographies, and can you suggest certain biographies to read? Before Shubham answers this, I want to say that one biography that has impacted me a lot is Mahatma Gandhi's biography, Experiments of Truth. But let's hear Shubham and what type of biographies he's read.
So before that, I was just answering the question of whether it really puts pressure on me now that I'm on the job.
Right.
No, it doesn't put pressure because of the job that the kind of job that it is. The pressure is more of your own expectations of yourself and the impact that you are because fortunately I have gotten it up when I have some years ahead of me, some years of service ahead of me. I am really interested in seeing the results as quickly as possible, and that is all the pressure that there is, but not beyond that. Nowadays the systems are in place, so we are fortunately not so neck deep in work as the earlier times were. And to answer this question of what kind of biographies I have read, Atul sir, you will be surprised to know that my all-time favorite book is also My Experiments with Truth. I have read it 3-4 times, I think, and it always gives me a ray of hope, a positive energy whenever I read any page of that book, because of how humble the person comes across to be, how humble Mahatma Gandhi was, and you really get yourself to reevaluate of all your choices that you are making in your life. And beyond that, I really so it's not necessary that you read biographies and autobiographies, but I, for one, am really interested in reading biographies and autobiographies. Another book which has really interested me is the biography by Malala, and it's called I Am Malala, and it's a really fascinating piece of work, just because, again, it tells you, like UPSC, that nothing is predictable in life, everything is unpredictable, and so you have to make best of wherever you are, in whatever situation you are being put in. Like she was being put in a very different situation, and now look where she is. So these are the kind of books that I generally prefer. But it's not only biographies that I read. I read all kinds of non-fiction. I read sci-fi also. I read, any other kind of informative economics books I also read. So I generally don't have a genre that I particularly prefer to read, but I read 3 to 4 books at the same time, so that I have
Wow.
diverse interest in that sense.
So what are you reading nowadays, Shubham? Tell us about
I'm
it.
reading a couple of books actually, sir. One is called The Scam. It basically tells you about all the scams that have happened since Harshad Mehta and Ketan Parekh. And also I'm reading 7 Habits of Highly Successful, Efficient People. Then I'm reading Ethical Dilemmas by of a Civil Servant by Anil Swarup, sir. So I'm reading 3 books at the same time.
Wow, that's absolutely
wonderful to
fantastic.
know that you're reading 3 books at the same time, Atul. But Shubham, also get into the writing habit. My grandfather was an old civil servant. He used to tell me, Vivek, diary zarur likhna. What happens every day in your service, just make a note of it. It will help you to write a book one day about your career. Although it is said that when IAS, IPS officers write books, nobody reads them except them, their own family. But if you write something sparkling like English August, or you write something which is absolutely out of the world, then obviously it will be useful to others. But one more thing that I'd like to mention, you must emphasize to all young aspirants, they think only the syllabus is important, but actually reading books gives them a lot of perspective, a lot of general awareness. And general awareness and general studies doesn't come only from the last 1 year of study. It is your lifelong general awareness which counts ultimately in the exam. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So very, very rightly pointed out, Vivek sir. It is very, very important, especially in the current times when I get a lot of queries regarding aspirants asking me, can I do 11th, 12th to correspondence? Can I do college through correspondence? Can I just start UPSC since 8th standard? All these questions are pointing towards what you are saying, sir, that they are not focused on building their own personality. It is much, much, much important to have a good personality, to have that kind of wide experience and that kind of general knowledge about your own self and about your own surroundings by the experiences that you have by going to a regular school, going to a regular college, performing well there, going beyond studies and doing good in extracurriculars. It's all very, very important as part of your personality building process. This is because even if you are able to crack the exam without doing any of it, you will not be able to become an extremely good public servant, because you are supposed to deal with people. Just by reading the prescribed syllabus for UPSC, not reading beyond that, not doing anything beyond that, not doing extracurricular, not being good at seeing the world the way it is, you will not be able to experience the kind of challenges that they will be lying ahead of you. You will not be able to preempt anything, and that is what will fail you really in the long term. So it's very, very important that you look beyond UPSC, and that is why I keep saying that don't make UPSC your whole life. You have to look beyond it, and you have to look. You have to see better for yourself.
So well said,
Totally.
Shubhamji. This is. You would
Very,
also
very
talk.
true.
I also probed Vivek. I was probing Shubham on his dream
In fact,
life. now
Shubham,
that
you're
he's-
absolutely right, because people think only in a very narrow way. And in fact, emotional intelligence also comes into the picture.
True.
Emotional intelligence and people skills.
Very true. So very true. It's a very, very important aspect of being a good civil servant.
So Shubham, if you can hear me, I also probed with you your dream in life. 20 years down the line.
So I was
30 years
saying that
down the
emotional
line.
intelligence.
We are crossing each other. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Vivek.
because they cannot even assess it in the personality test.
Shubham, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. I'm Vivek sir is
Okay. Vivek is asking about emotional intelligence and your
Sorry,
views on that.
Atul. So I was saying that it will basically be only.
Go ahead, Vivek. Okay.
Carry on, Shubham. Carry on. Yeah,
Okay,
just
Shubham,
tell me
over to
about
you.
emotional intelligence and the key. Yeah, go ahead, Shubham.
So, sir, emotional intelligence is very important. Like I said, that in this job that we are in, we have to preempt a lot of things, and to preempt and to be able to be ahead of what you really are seeing in front of you, it's very important that you see it from the perspective of the person that you are trying to benefit, and that is where really emotional intelligence, emotional quotient comes into the picture, and it becomes extremely important that you are able to, be there, try to understand it from the other person's point of view, and solve a problem in which a win-win solution is the result. And that is where EQ becomes really important.
So Dr. Rana is asking a question, Shubham. He's saying, you've also worked with NGOs. My Friend Foundation is the one that you worked with. What social cause is closest to your heart and you feel very strongly about?
So, sir, I have been related to NGOs since my college days, and the cause that is really, really close to my heart is women empowerment and girl child education, primarily even in that. And that is where, to answer your question, sir, what is my mission in life? I think if I'm able to just deal with, if I'm able to make girl child education much better in India, I would have achieved whatever I had aspired to become a civil servant for. And that is where really my mission in life in this service lies. Apart from personal goals here and there, that is a separate thing. But in terms of profession, in terms of career, in terms of seeing the societal betterment, this is where my interest really lies, and I really hope to make a mark in girls' child education in the times to come.
I think that's so noble. Absolutely, Shubham. We work with so many girl children at Shoolini, and when you see them come in and they then blossom and they do so well in life, it's amazing. In fact, I just recently met with a girl, Anchal Thakur. She comes from a very rural background, and now she's going to Taiwan, to the National Taiwan University for a master's. And she was so timid when she came, and the way she sort of blossomed and the way that she's, how confident she was. It's absolutely amazing. So agree with you. India needs to educate a girl child so much more. In fact, there were recent literacy numbers that came out yesterday, and I was having a look. So it shocked me that there's a difference between literacy of males and females is as high as 15% across the country, and in some states is as high as 20%. So absolutely. So well said, and so wish you good luck that you can do something amazing on the girl child.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So Vivek, what about other questions you had in your list?
Yes, can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. So Shubham, tell me, what does your career look like? How are you planning? I know it's not easy to plan a career, but even in the generalist services, people specialize nowadays in one particular or two particular areas. So being an economist or being from a particular background, what are you looking at in your own priorities? What are the sectors you'd like to work in?
Sir, I have not really given it a very detailed thought in that sense, but if I may, one area that I really want to work in is, like I said, education. That has always been really close to my heart. And the other area that I want to work in is livelihood. So these are two areas which are interrelated in that sense, because one, education and literacy education leads to empowerment, and that leads to livelihood. So in that sense, it is kind of an interlinked two areas that I'm really interested in. But that is what really interests me, and hopefully I can do something about these two areas in the future. But in a personal career wise, sir, I really want to speak about this here, that so I really want to go for higher studies whenever I'm eligible for a study leave, and for some hopefully government sponsored program, because that I think gives you a lot of perspective. So if you opt for higher studies in any of the universities in India or abroad for that matter, the perspective that you get once you come back to the field is altogether different, because you have gone through a lot of rigorous perspective which the academicians are able to provide, and only the academicians are able to provide, just because of the number of years that they have put in terms of their own research and bringing it all together. And that is why it's very important that all of us really keep on learning with every day, and taking a year off or two to just enrich yourself is a very, very good way of probably being able to do better in the field.
I totally agree. In fact, many of the Haryana cadre officers went for a one-year program in the US.
I think we're losing Vivek again.
And it was because they were on study tours or study leave that they became better officers when they came back, and that really helps.
So Shubham, is it a 1 year thing you're looking at, or are you looking at a PhD at some point of time?
I'm not sure, sir, whether and when I will be able to do a PhD. I really want to, maybe towards the latter part of my career. But right now, I'm just looking for a 1 or 2 year program. So whatever I can find, a good program.
Fantastic. As you were talking about higher education, I started thinking about a little bit about my career, Vivek. I so wish I had, after my MBA, had gone and done a PhD. But I think I still might. You never know. But that's at least my desire. So I'm so glad, Shubham, you're thinking about it. But the question that comes to my mind, and Vivek, I'll pose this to you, is there's some people who build their careers in the state while some IS officers build their career in the center. How do you choose, and what's your preference, Shubham?
I think it should be a combination of both, which Shubham will also endorse my views. I think it is important to be on the ground level and in the state, as well as get a national perspective at the center. You have to be good enough to get to the center, by the way. There is a selection process. So, Shubham, what are your ideas on this?
So absolutely agree, sir. So once we have, fortunately, in 4, 5, 7 years, if you have that kind of experience on the field, being in different positions in the administration, then it is always a very good idea to, if you're capable enough, if you're interested, to go to the center and involve and channelize those ideas in the policy making framework of the center. Because ultimately, a lot of ideas flow from the center to the states. So it is a great idea to be there, and it really, because ultimately the idea is to create an impact on the field, and policy making is a major area of how you can do that. Once you have gained that experience on the field, it's really helpful for your own betterment also, for that matter, to go there and be a part of, like sir said, all the brilliant minds of the country.
So Vivek, this has been a stellar discussion. Shubham is a man of few words. He's very precise. He's very focused. And you've answered every question that we had. I now know why you scored such high marks in your interview, because you're so precise in your answers, Shubham. Very impressive. I'm actually getting goose pimples as I speak to you. Hopefully, all the audience that we had today learned from you, and you'll be an inspiration. I always say, Vivek, that even if one student gets inspired by such a session and changes his or her life, our purpose is solved. And I'm sure there might be many more in this discussion today. So, Shubham, from my side, thank you very much. Hopefully, when things get okay, we'd love to invite you over to Shoolini. It's a passion for us, all of us at Shoolini, to build a great world-class university. Vivek is also part of that effort. And hopefully we can show you when you're here about the good work that we're doing. Vivek, before we close, I'll ask you to share your last thoughts, and then we can say adieu.
I think Shubham is a very inspiring young officer for all candidates who are aspiring to be in the IAS or IPS or any service. I think he's got a very level-headed approach, very good head on the shoulders. So I wish you well, Shubham. You have a very good cadre. Maharashtra is one of the best cadres in the country. And I believe your home state is Rajasthan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so two good states to which you are associated now. Your home will be Maharashtra for 35 years. And of course, you keep going to Delhi off and on, and maybe abroad. So all the best, and keep inspiring.
Thank you.
I before we call it a day, there was one last question, because I was curious. Why Maharashtra? Why didn't you pick up Rajasthan? So probably there's more something internal that you guys know, but I was just curious about it.
No, I picked Rajasthan, sir. My second choice was Maharashtra because of the vacancy system that there is. I couldn't get my first choice, but I think I'm fortunate to get Maharashtra. But
wonderful.
Yeah.
So Shubham, one last before we close, last thoughts for the audience, the teachers and the students. Last one sentence from your end.
So there is one very interesting anecdote, if you can say, or quote that I heard somewhere. So it says that imagine yourself to be a sports person, and don't imagine yourself as a sports person and do so good in life that people automatically remember the name that is behind your t-shirt. And
Wow.
so that is something that really inspires me, and that really helps me to always look ahead in life, and be determined to do whatever I always aspire to be. So it's not that you don't enjoy life to the fullest, but at the same time keep your head on the ground and remember what you really started this journey for. And so with those thoughts, thank you so much, Atul. It was really a pleasure interacting with you, Vivek sir. It's always nice to see you on the other side, and thank you for giving me this
Thank you.
opportunity. And I'm
Thank you.
really looking forward to visiting Shoolini whenever the times are appropriate. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Shubham. Wish you good luck. And, your parents must be so proud, Shubham. So congratulations to them too. And everyone in your family, in fact, the whole state of Rajasthan, for producing such a brilliant person in you. Have a great day. And students who are listening to this webinar, I'm sure you'll find Shubham as a role model. And I'm sure many of you will work harder and with more dedication for the civil services. And if you ever make it to the services, do write to Vivek and I and Shubham. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye.